What's up, guys? Here it is, the review you've been waiting for. The Drone Camp's review of the FullSpeed RC Toothpick. I gotta say, the original name for the toothpick goes out to Bob Rogie. That's right, the dentist originally coined that name. Lewis at FullSpeed decided to borrow it for his design here, so the original homage goes out to my man Bob. So let me go ahead and get started with this quad, and let's just get some honest stuff on the table about the toothpick from FullSpeed. A lot of you guys are probably going to buy this and fly it anyway, but I'm going to tell you the pros and cons about this quad. We're going to talk about flight characteristics. We're going to talk about the components used, the way it's set up, some of the failures that I had. I tested this for about 2 solid weeks for you guys, and a lot of times I'm not the first guy out there to get a review online just because I want to get all the views. It would be nice to have more views, but at the end of the day, I want you guys to have an honest opinion on the quad and some real world use for at least a week before I start talking about how great a quad is, because if I take it out and review it the same day and fly it all on the same day, then it's not that great a value for you guys as a customer. You really won't find out what's going to break on it for just a handful of flights. So the reviewers out there that are doing that, that's not super great for you guys. But I had a lot of fun with this quad. I almost had to relearn how to fly it on a 3S battery. And this is the 3S 300 milliamp battery from Happy Model. It has the little XT30 on there already. And you notice that it is rocking some different props on there. These are the 2036 Hulkies by Jim Fan, and I felt like these had a little more control at higher throttle. They are a little bit smaller than the 65 millimeter props that come along with it. Very similar to the sailfly-x props that you see here. They are push-on props, but we had some issues with that. We're going to talk about the issues coming into this review in just a little bit after I talk about my initial impression. You know, my initial impression was that this thing is fast. It flies great low to the ground, tons of control. It freestyles like, it almost feels like a 5-inch. I called a friend of mine immediately after flying this that I've been flying with for years, and I told him, oh my God, this is crazy. You got to fly this thing. It is so much fun. This is different. And he's heard me say that so many times because this stuff just keeps getting a little bit better and better all the time. And since Bob has been making this toothpick styled designs for brushless ultralight frame combos for many years now, these iterations are all coming out around. So we have the Happy Model sailfly-x. We've got the iFlight Turbo B. I have one sitting here right here on the bench that I'm going to fly this weekend for you guys. Today is Monday for this review, and I'm going to spend all weekend with the iFlight Turbo B. So that will be up on the channel a little bit later. So I think there's some pros and cons to all of these designs that came out, all sort of gunning for that, again, quotations, toothpick style frame. It's almost trying to become its own little genre, which it has been for a long time, but Bob Rogie's not the only person to design a ultralight micro brushless. There are other frames out there very similar that maybe they copied Bob, who knows. But there's huge community out there on RC groups and on the Facebook forums building micro brushless. So, but then again, this was originally Bob's name on his quad, so I'm not sure that that's totally okay for FullSpeed to take that name and use it for their own. However, I gotta say that Lewis is a friend of mine. He's the owner of FullSpeed RC, and I've talked to Lewis for many years about his designs, and we've collaborated back and forth, and I've given him tons of feedback along with some of the other reviewers. We are a little bit beta testers sometimes. We get prototypes from these guys, and they really trust us to give them feedback. So let's talk about the specs that are on here real quick. Why is this such a wild quad? It's like a runaway pony, up over the trees, back down, and tons of control coming back around from those power loops. I love it. It floats great. And I'm getting like 3.5 to 4 minutes off of a 3S 300 milliamp, and that's a great flight time for something like this. We had a Cadex camera on there originally. This was the camera that came on it. It's the Turbo Micro F2 camera, a really nice camera, but you see there's a new camera on there now, Foxeer Predator Micro, because I blew this one out. I hit a chain, and there's not a lot of protection riding up front on this particular canopy, and it is a little bit thin up front right here. And one thing that did concern me is that this wobbles back and forth a little bit. You see that there? That's because on the bottom of this frame, there is only a single screw right here holding that front part on. So if there was 2 screws there, it wouldn't move as much. And I don't know if allowing it to move that much is going to give you more shake in your camera, but I would be suspect to that in your higher throttle punch outs. It is also nice that it is an ultralight frame. It is 1.5 millimeter on the frame front and back here. It is a unibody stretch X design. I like the frame a lot. I think the frame is like really, really cool. It's one of the coolest looking frames with this crossbar. I love it. I told Lewis when he first showed it to me, I was like, man, I love that. It reminds me of that America style frame from Catalyst Machine Works. I think that's super cool, but it's like a micro kind of version. 4 screws on the bottom holding the motors in. And other than the frame, I gotta say 12 amp ESCs on here running D-Shot with a D-Shot beeper. That's great. We have the FullSpeed F4 flight controller up here running Betaflight OSD. You've got 600 milliwatt VTX on here, or also 25, 100, 200, 400 as well, running IRC Tramp inside Betaflight. So you've got smart audio on there, which is great. Go in and change channels and bands from the sticks on your transmitter, which I think is really nice. This TPU top canopy is very, very indestructible. It really is. And all my crashes, I mean, I cartwheeled this thing, and this frame didn't break, and this did not break off, even though that one screw is holding it on right there in the front, and the screws in the, there's this screw in the back right here. I really seriously thought I was going to rip this off. But this TPU is, like I said, it's bomber tough. One thing that I did not like about it was the fact that, and I'll let you look at it from the top view there, see if you can guess what I'm talking about. Notice that there's only 3 motor plug harnesses there right now. That 4th one got broken off, and that ended my day because I didn't have my soldering gear out at the field, which I normally do. But I messaged Lewis about it when I got home at night, and I was not super stoked about this. Mainly because I knew it was going to break off when I first saw the design, because they're sticking way out the side, and that is definitely not the way I would build a quad. The way I would design it and build it, if I was going to send it out to customers, would be something more like this. It's completely enclosed, encapsulated inside the canopy, nothing sticking out. Everything on this one is a solderless design. While this one was trying to be a solderless design, it ended up on the 3rd battery having to be repaired. So I wasn't super happy about that. I had to snip that connector off and just solder those 3 wires back. And they are precariously close to each other. If you don't have a TS100 iron, if you're trying to do your soldering with something like a Weller from Home Depot with a huge tip on it, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting those 3 wires not to touch. If one of those wires are touching each other side by side right there, you're going to have a short out and you're going to fry your ESCs. So that's one thing to think about before purchasing this quad. One other thing that I do like about this quad is the fact that he does have these little connectors here. You can kind of pull them out and we can see that connector there. So if I had a motor go bad, I could just unplug this and plug it back in. He also has my D8 receiver plugged in right here, and we have a single antenna coming out right here for that, and he already had it zip tied up, which was really nice, so it's just ready to bind up and fly. One thing I got to talk about is the PID setup on here. I think the PIDs could be a little smoother. They do need some work, so when you get this, if you get it as a bind and fly, you're going to have to do a little bit of PID work on it, or if you have a friend who can do it for you, you might need some work on the P's and D's here. That's just going to be something that's going to have to happen if you're going to fly this with 3S battery. At the top end of the stick, I do see some jello in there, so one thing that needs to be smoothed out. But again, prop is everything on a lot of these quads. If you get the right prop on there, you'll have a lot less jello on the camera, and that 2036 prop is probably the best one to choose for the least amount of jello. And I'll just give you guys a little closer look at the motors and the props up close. Those are 1.5 millimeter shafts, and I felt like those were just a little bit larger made than 1.5 millimeter because it was a real bitch to get the props on and off. So much so that I needed to use some needle nose pliers on top of it and hold the arm down here as hard as I could, and I felt like I was going to break the frame when I was trying to take the props off. So my biggest pet peeve about this entire design is the motors that are on here. The shafts just seem like a smidgen too big. I would actually prefer that he used some type of 2-bolt combo on here instead of using a push-on prop like this. It's nice that they push on. They go on super easy, but getting them off was a bitch, and I cut my finger. These are super sharp on this back side of the prop right here. They're like little razor blades. So if you're trying to twist this or turn it around and it comes in contact with your finger, it's going to split your finger wide open. So be careful with the Gem Fan Hokies. These, even the 65 millimeter props, are still really, really hard to get off as well. So so much force was being put on this prop that I actually pulled the motor stem out of the motor by about 3 millimeters, and then there was a bunch of play in the bell, and that's a huge problem. If you get play in the bell, you can turn the motor upside down and put it on a flat surface, and you can take a driver and just kind of lightly tap it back down and through till you get this O-ring a little bit snug here, and you want to move it until there's no play. And if you look at some of these other motors on here, they still have a little bit of play, and that's from me pulling the props on and off. So that's one caveat of this particular design. So I think the Sailfly props were a lot easier to get off by hand. Very, very easy to get off. Also, I like the fact that they designed their canopy to be fully encompassed over top of everything that it's underneath of the ESC flight controller combo. And not a lot of people are liking the Crazy Bee F4. This is also the V2, and honestly, I haven't had a lot of problems with it. I haven't had any problems, not a single problem. Other people are saying that they've had brownouts, and it is possible that they're having issues with that out there. I know lots of people have had to return them to the factory, but happy model. I'm happy to say that they are actually responding to people on Facebook. So if you have one brown out, send them a message on Facebook, post it on their wall, and I bet you that they will respond with something, like a message like, hey, yeah, we'll replace it. The iFlight Turbo Bee also uses bolts on theirs. I don't have them on there yet, but they do use bolts. So this is probably the best preferred prop method. But we're going to see how these three compare coming up later on my channel. I'm going to let you know which one of these three I would buy, which one is the number one winner out of these three. I have a feeling that this one is going to do pretty well. But I think that as far as flying characteristics go, I feel like the Sailfly-X flew really, really nice. Amazing, actually. But I feel like this one might be a little bit better for freestyle. So let's go ahead and set it on there, and you'll notice that I have a larger strap on there, so the other strap might be a little bit lighter because this one has a metal buckle, but I trimmed it to fit because I wanted a larger strap. The FullSpeed one's just a little bit short, and I've got 49.1 grams there. And with the 2S450, that's going to be my recommended battery. And let's see if I can get that to balance out. Be a Christmas miracle if I can. Okay, 78.7 grams. Not too bad. And the other battery of choice is the 3S450. And the reason I had to get a bigger strap was because this one's just a little bit wider than the skinnier style straps. And this strap accommodates this battery. And this one got me about 3.5 to 4 minutes if I was just cruising and taking it easy. Let's see if I can get this to stay up inside there without falling backwards. All right. That one's bringing it up to 90.9 grams. That's for your total takeoff weight. That's actually pretty good. Under 100 grams. So I got to say that I think that the props that came with it, they're great for up to about 60% throttle. Above that, you get tremendous jello. I thought it was pretty cool. They look really slick on the quad when I first got it, and I got excited to go fly it like that. But they give you a lot of speed, but they don't quite give you as much control as something like these props do. And these are probably the ones that I would get. It's the Hoki 2036, like I mentioned before on here. You might even be able to get away with something like the Gem Fan flash props, and these are 2540s. These are the ones from the Turbo Bee, and they should also fit on there. But I'm not going to be able to pull that off right now. You got plenty of clearance for that particular prop. So you could try both of these and see which one is the better prop. The tri-prop might give you a little bit longer flight time. And speaking of flight time, I was getting somewhere around 3 minutes with the 2S 450 battery. That one flies just fine. I feel like I like the balance on the fatter battery versus the longer one. It just seems to have a better CG with this kind of more compact style battery. If I can find some of these, I'll put some of these down below for you. Even I'm not sure if they make them in that 2S format, but around 3 minutes with that battery and close to 4 minutes on the 3S 450. And honestly, once I put these props on there, I didn't have so much issue with a lot of the wobble with this quad after kind of prop down a little bit. So I think that's what you should do for yours if you get it. Don't go as small as the like 1936 props that I use a lot, the Gem Fan 1936. Stick to around 2036 or those 2540s, and I think you'll have a pretty good flying quad here. But I'm gonna rate this one really quickly for you guys. We're gonna do an durability rating of about 3.5 because that's not a great design right here. And fun factor was 5 out of 5. I think the quad is amazing. Performance factor, 5 out of 5. Absolutely. Overall rating and score for the FullSpeed Toothpick is going to be a 4.2 out of 5. And that is good, but not like super great. So I think it could be better. Maybe the version 2 will have some type of canopy that covers up a lot of this stuff for you guys. So yeah, just the one thing that was a huge turnoff. But I gotta say that the flight characteristic probably outweighs all that. What I would probably do is, if you got this quad, I would almost take these off and just direct solder all of them on. That way you don't have to deal with it. And they're probably likely not to break off in the future. So, or just maybe wait for them to break off one by one. But this one super ultra annoying thing that you're gonna have to deal with if you buy this one. Other than that, you'll have a blast with this quad. If you're flying anywhere near trees or branches or things like that to collide with, one thing that you need to think about. But thanks again for watching my honest review, guys. Please do subscribe on the channel because I have more tests and reviews coming up soon. Next up on the channel, we have that iFlight Turbo Bee, and I'm super excited about that one as well because it looks really cool. But still, I'm very excited about where Lewis is going with this ultralight design. I think it's actually a pretty cool quad aside from the design challenge that we've had facing this one. So and maybe get some newer motors on here as well. Take care, guys. I appreciate it. Please do subscribe and become a Patreon, guys, because I'm giving away this Emax Buzz on the channel very soon. This is going to go to one of my Patreons. Still brand new. Still got the little camera cover on the outside of the camera here. So yeah, pretty awesome. Coming up at the end of this month. Guys, take care. I'll see you on the next one.